Hey everyone, welcome back to another Wudang Way tutorial. This week is the internal week, so we're going over all the different basics for Taiji like we introduced in yesterday's video. So for this first video, I want to use it as the introduction to kind of get the structure, to get the framework of the standing, the position that we use in all the Taiji forms. This is going to be the same that we use in meditation and in Qigong as well. And even if it's old material, I hope you can use it as a review to kind of reiterate where your weight should be, how you should be positioned, what's the best place of balance. So for Taiji, we're going to break it down into 5 easy steps, working from the ground up, and I'll just explain them piece by piece. You can kind of follow along and feel it out and see if you can get the same sensation, see if you get the same fundamental basic clear, okay? So first we want to start, we're actually just going to have our feet just shoulder width apart. A couple key things to keep in mind there is really important is when we step out, however you step out for now is okay, but we want to have the feet parallel. So we don't want to have these kind of wide and we don't want to have pigeon-toed. We really want to keep the feet parallel on the inside. So if you have the heel and the toe pointed back and straight ahead, that's perfect. The width should be about shoulder width. You're going to try to keep this nice and square. You don't want your knees coming in. You want to make sure that your knees are straight over the feet. Okay, so for one, we're going to talk about the foot. Foot balanced. If you can think about it in this way, you actually want to have your weight back on the heels a little bit more, and then your toes not off the ground but lightly squeezing, touching the ground. So you don't want to like flex too much the toes, but you do want to kind of keep them relaxed to where you're not falling off the ground and lifting off. You want to keep very stable and like kind of like you're growing roots is the adage that we use a lot in traditional martial arts, that you actually feel that you're sinking your weight down through the heels specifically. On the toes, you're going to be a little bit forward and you're going to engage a lot of muscle to stabilize. On the heels, you're going to be very passive, very sunk down, very heavy, very stable. So on the heels, shoulder width apart, feet parallel. This is number 1. Number 2, we're going to move up to the knees. As we move up to the knees, now we start getting into the actual musculature where we want to have the body be more relaxed. So how do you sink your weight down into the ground? We bend the knees, okay? Bend the knees, we're going to say, like a slight squat. Sometimes we'll actually say this is like a high mabu position because you have the knees bent, and this is actually more like riding a horse than the actual mabu we've gone in the other videos. But we want to have it over the arch of the foot, the knee. So we have the knee directly over the arch of the foot, slightly bent, not too much to where you're like squatted down or you're putting a lot of pressure on the knee. You want to just have it slightly bent to where it's rounded. A really common habit is when people stand for a while, we start to lock the knee to one side and kind of like put the pressure on the bone to relax the muscle. But what we want to do is we really want to bend the knees so that way everything's lightly engaged is the key here. So everything's sinking down, 50-50 weight, still on the heels, okay? So you should be nice and balanced, really heavy there. Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3, then we're going to move up to the hips. Hips and the waist. Okay, so this point is really important. When we get into future videos, we're going to talk about the dantian, we're talking about the core, our center of mass, center of gravity, as well as like all of our movement is based in the waist. Okay, so if you've gone through the mabu and the gombu techniques, you'll notice that everything moves from here, and from here down is our foundation. So the waist is really important to have relaxed and soft to be able to move. But the key there is in the hips. Okay, so what makes this a little bit more difficult is we actually have to tuck the tailbone down. So what I find helps is if you put a hand on the belly and a hand on the lower back. What we want to think of is we want to think of the hips as like a bucket. So we want to tip the bucket back by taking the tailbone and tucking it under. So you actually turn this way, okay? And you don't want to do that by contracting the abs. A lot of people will kind of hunch the back and squeeze. You actually just move the tailbone just slightly, just trying to stay the same height. So you're not squatting as you do this. You're just turning the hips and kind of straightening out the lower back, keeping the belly relaxed, and you kind of have this tipping sensation, and you feel a little bit of heaviness maybe in your lower back where you still have that, you bring that sinking feeling back. Okay, so number 3, we tuck the tailbone, relax the core, and keep the back straight while sinking the weight even farther, just slightly. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. With these 3, you should feel very stable. You should feel equally heavy and kind of like planted. So building your way up. Now we're very structurally sound. From here, we have free movement when we get into other techniques. For now, just keep straight, keep oriented in the same direction. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Foot, knees, hips. Then we move to the chest and the shoulders. Okay, this is probably the most important habit to break for beginning practitioners, especially for the external stuff, is we talk a lot about raising the shoulder up when we do movements. So again, that's going to come back here in the internal side as well, is we want to have the shoulders relaxed, kind of sunken down, but not loaded. You don't want to squeeze and have the bone in the back stick out. A lot of times we talk about this being like a turtle back. We want to have this kind of slightly rounded, and we want to have like a caved chest, not a hunched chest. Like, you don't want to hunch forward. You want to round it from the shoulders around the side. So the easiest way to explain this is a typical like relaxed posture might be hands on the side or hands behind the back. What we want to do is our relaxed position should be the hands over the pockets in the front of the body. So that's going to kind of slightly empty the chest and get rid of this pressure. And also your shoulders should be slightly in front of your chest as well. So you have this kind of open chest. This is like a more proud position where this is going to be all engaged. And we want to have this kind of sunk back. So we put the hands over the pockets. Remember our other 3 points. And just kind of relax, keeping a little space between the body and the arms themselves. Don't kind of slump and have this caved. We don't want to have this feeling. We want to have wide, but not open. Okay, so off to the side, hands over the pockets is the easiest way to get that feeling. And when we move, we want to actually move everything together. We don't want to just move the shoulder and have this kind of whipping delayed reaction. So we always keep the shoulder sunk down and relaxed forward. The shoulder is very mobile. It's the most mobile joint in the body, that and the hip. So when we move this, we can do a lot of range of motion, but we want to be careful of over rolling or pulling open. We really want to keep the movement in front, especially when we get to the movements of Taiji, the Taiji walking, and the different forms that we'll do later. We always want to have this kind of round chest. So be very careful of over opening, making everything too much stretched out. We keep about 90% all the time. So we've got 10% bent, 10% tucked, 10% caved. So everything's nice and curved. We have this kind of round, like Taiji. We have everything in circles, okay? So for 4, shoulders in front, round back, and relaxed, okay? From here, the last one, number 5, we're really just going to talk about the head as a whole. We talk about the head in traditional martial arts as being the 5th limb. So we have 2 legs, 2 arms, and 1 head. Everything motion-wise starts with the body, with the trunk, and the head should follow the body. So in Taiji specifically, a lot of times we have turning to the side, but we don't want to start the movement with the head. So we don't want to have a movement where we're kind of looking before we go. That's like a tell, and also it's just bad posture, because then you have all these different angles in the body. You want to have everything be equalized. So a lot of times we just look at it as a limb. So if the body turns, the head turns in that direction. The eyes follow the direction that your body turns, and then it's very simple. Sometimes with Qigong, with some other sets, that's different because those are stretching postures. Again, that's a slightly different system. But for Taiji specifically, we want to follow the body as much as possible. So orientation of the head follows the body, keeping the chin slightly tucked and the neck long. So again, that helps you keep the shoulders relaxed if you don't tuck the chin in too low. For breathing through the nose, breathing to the belly. We'll go over this a lot more later, but breathing low, keeping the mouth closed, tongue to the roof of the mouth is the traditional one. Probably familiar with that if you've done a little bit of meditation or different internal arts before. So you breathe through the nose, tongue touching the roof of the mouth, follow the body, and sometimes we talk about how the body is pulled up from the baihui, from the center of the head, the crown of the head. We have this kind of like lifting sensation. That's going to make it feel like if your body is sinking down with the hips and stretching up with the neck and round with the chest. These 3 points, the lower, the middle, and the upper spine, will be pulled straight and stretched out. And that way you're very nice and relaxed, very stable, and very comfortable moving through different movements as far as weight transfer, okay? So for the 5, we're just really talking about the head as a whole. We've got a lot of little details. Tongue to the roof of the mouth, breathe through the nose, orient with the body, and stand up tall. Chin slightly tucked down. And in this position, you should feel everything just nicely engaged, everything relaxed. In the next couple of videos, we'll move into actually going into some standing meditation, some breathing exercises. But really just this posture, if you can remember these 5 points with the feet, the knees, the hips, the shoulders, and the head. Anytime that you feel pressure or you feel stress in the body, I think this is a good base point to come back to. So a lot of times I advise this to come back if you're standing in line for a long time, you're working on your feet a lot. You'll find that you might start to do these habits where you lean on one hip or lock a leg or you kind of open the chest, different things to make yourself feel more comfortable. But a lot of times we view that as a weakness or a deficiency in the body. And we want to come back to this stable position, and you actually feel the circulation relax. Blood will move more cleanly because the joints are open and fluid. There's a little bit of space there so that everything can move nicely. So it's really just a uniform position to come back to, regardless of if you're training martial arts or you're brushing your teeth in the morning. So something to kind of come back to. Keep these points in your mind, especially in the next couple videos, but use them in your daily life too, because I think this will always benefit you. Okay? So 5 points: feet flat, weight sunk on the heels, knees bent, hips tucked, chest relaxed, shoulders down, head straight, breathe deeply. Remember these. We'll come back to them in tomorrow's video. We'll be going through standing meditation and give you a practice to follow and put all this together. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching this video. Be sure to hit subscribe, check out all the information underneath. There you can navigate to the Ways of Wudang Patreon account. And by becoming a patron, you can get access to all the main channel resources around martial arts, Taoist philosophy, even Chinese music, and group classes, live streams, one-on-one courses, and a bunch of other stuff as well. So I hope you'll go check that out, and I hope to see you there. Once more, thank you for all your support. We'll see you in the next video.